You'd think working at a 24-hour Burger King on Route 9 would be boring. Most nights it is. I'm 17, still in high school, and I work the late shift to help my mom with bills. I don't mind it much. It's quiet after 11, the occasional drunk college kid or night shift nurse swinging by for a Whopper. But I'd be lying if I said I liked working alone. Rick, my manager, is supposed to stay up front with me during close. Instead, he holes up in the back office and watches YouTube until he passes out. He always says I'm too dramatic, but he's not the one out here listening to the freezer hum like it's trying to talk. This happened in October. Cold rain. All night, barely anyone came in. I'd already wiped down the tables and was counting the cash drawer when the door chime rang at 11:47. A man stepped in, soaked to the bone, black jacket clinging to his skin, hood dripping onto the tiles. He didn't shake off the rain or speak right away. Just stood there. I put on my customer voice. "Sorry, sir, we're closing in about 10 minutes. "I just want a Whopper," he said. His voice sounded off, like he had a mouthful of gravel or something stuck in his throat. I told myself he was just tired. Maybe high. I made the burger, fast, avoiding eye contact. His fingers were ice cold when he took the bag. "You here alone?" he asked, peering past me into the empty dining room. "No," I lied. "Manager's in back." He smiled. His teeth were tiny. Baby teeth. Way too many of them. Then he turned and left without another word. I locked the doors early that night. It was almost midnight. Rain kept coming down in sheets. The store felt colder than usual, even though the heat was on. I went through closing like normal, swept the lobby, refilled ketchup, checked the restrooms. Except the men's room door was cracked open. I'd already checked it earlier and closed it tight. I pushed it open slowly. No one inside. No sounds. But the mirror was fogged, like someone had just taken a shower. I don't know how that's possible. It's a public restroom, not a spa. I backed out and returned to the front. That's when I noticed the security camera feed over Register 3 was off. Static. The other cameras were fine, but that one, right where the man had stood, was just flickering gray. Then I saw it. A tray. Sitting near the window. On it, a half-eaten Whopper. But I hadn't served anyone else that night. No dine-ins at all. Just that man, and he'd taken his food to go. I stood frozen, staring at it. The wrapper was peeled back. Bite marks in the bun. Ketchup smeared on the tray like someone had eaten in a rush. The headset on the counter crackled to life. "Jordan." That's what it sounded like. My name. Whispered. Then came a wet, squelching sound, like someone chewing with their mouth open. Slow, heavy breathing. I ripped the headset off and dropped it like it burned. I was done. I needed Rick. I ran to the back, heart pounding, yelling his name. He was asleep in the chair, headphones still in. I shook him hard. "There's someone in here," I said. He groaned and rubbed his eyes. "It's just the wind." I didn't even bother arguing. Then we heard the thump. The sound came from the kitchen. Loud, wet, like a body slapping against tile. Rick sat up, finally alert. I grabbed a mop handle and inched toward the prep area. Rick followed, slower, still acting like I was overreacting. Then we saw it. The grill, completely cold 10 minutes ago, was on. Hot, hissing. Patties sizzled on the surface like someone had dropped them moments earlier. Rick cursed under his breath and reached for the dial. That's when the soda machine behind us exploded. Coke shot out from the nozzles like a geyser, drenching us both. Rick spun around. "What the hell is going on?" I didn't answer. I was staring at the far wall. The emergency exit light was blinking red, on, off, on. Then we saw the freezer doors. Every single one was wide open. Rick finally snapped into action. "Out, now!" We ran, slipping on soda, burgers still spitting on the grill behind us. We pushed through the emergency exit into the parking lot, rain still coming down in thick, cold sheets. Rick called the cops from the car. I sat beside him, shaking. They arrived in 5 minutes, searched the place top to bottom. No one was inside, but they found things. All the freezer doors standing open. No signs of forced entry. Every burger bun stacked in a perfect pyramid inside the walk-in, and a single muddy footprint on top of the deep fryer, 6 feet high, no ladders around. The print didn't match any of our shoes. The cops couldn't explain it, neither could we. Corporate sent a rep the next morning. She wore a sharp suit, carried a clipboard, and smiled like everything had an easy answer. "A prank," she said, clicking her pen. Maybe a disgruntled ex-employee. Could have set the grill on a timer. Soda malfunctions not uncommon either. Rick looked like he wanted to argue, but he didn't. Probably knew it wouldn't help. They fired him a week later. Not for the incident officially, for neglecting protocol. But I know the truth. They needed someone to blame. I quit the ER, same day. No notice. No goodbye. My last shift haunted me. Not just because of what I saw, but because no one wanted to believe it. Not the cops. Not my friends. Not even Rick, not really. I'd replay that night over and over. The tiny teeth. The whisper in the headset. The burger someone had eaten, but never ordered. For weeks, I couldn't sleep without the lights on. I unplugged every appliance in my room. My dreams were filled with wet chewing sounds and the scent of scorched patties. I haven't eaten fast food since. Not just Burger King. Anything. Even drive-thrus make my skin crawl now. Some nights I convinced myself it was just stress. Maybe I imagined parts of it, but then I remember the bun pyramid, and that footprint 6 feet up, and I know I didn't imagine any of it. I drive past that Burger King sometimes. Not on purpose, just part of the route to my night classes. The building still stands, still 24 hours, still buzzing with that sickly white light that never quite reaches the corners. A couple weeks ago, I drove by around midnight, rain tapping the windshield. I glanced over without thinking. The open 24 hours sign was flickering, the same way it did that night. Then I saw something move behind the counter. A shape, tall, hunched, leaning too far forward. Just for a second. I blinked and it was gone. The lights stayed on. No one else seemed to notice. Sometimes I wonder if it's still coming back. Not for me, just for the next kid working alone, trying to make rent, thinking it's just another boring night shift. I've never told my full story. Not to my mom, not to the cops, but I'm telling it now, just in case someone else sees the same man in the rain. Just in case someone else hears their name whispered through the headset. If you do, don't ask questions. Don't check the freezer. And whatever you do, don't turn your back on the grill. I didn't believe in ghosts. Still don't, not really. But something happened to me on the night shift that I can't explain, and every time I try, people either laugh or look uncomfortable. So I stopped talking about it. My name's Jasmine. Carter, Jazz to everyone who knows me. I moved to Melbourne last year for uni, majoring in sociology. Things were okay until my scholarship fell through mid-semester. I couldn't afford rent anymore. That's how I ended up pulling over nights at a Burger King on Elizabeth Street. The place gave off weird energy from the start. Fluorescent lights that buzzed too loud, equipment that seemed to break without reason, regulars who wouldn't make eye contact. The turnover rate was insane. I think I was the third night shift worker that month. Greg Holloway, the manager, was a tired guy with gray stubble and the energy of someone who gave up caring years ago. On my first solo shift, he just handed me the keys and said, "We've had some creep hanging around the dumpsters. Ignore him, lock the back door." I nodded, not thinking much of it. Urban weirdos are part of the city. I wasn't scared, but by my third night things started to feel off. Around 1:45 a.m. the drive-through headset crackled to life with a burst of static. Then I heard breathing. Slow, raspy, close. "Hello?" I said. Nothing. The security monitor showed nothing in the drive-through lane, just empty pavement. But on the screen facing the lobby, something shifted, movement near the condiment station. I walked around the counter, and as I approached, a single ketchup packet dropped from the counter to the floor. No breeze, no draft, just silence. I started to feel watched. I told myself it was a coincidence. Maybe the packet had been teetering on the edge, Maybe the headset had picked up a random frequency. City tech always glitches, right? But then came the second night of weird. I was dropping a fresh batch of fries into the oil when I heard it. 3 sharp knocks. Not from the door, from inside the restaurant. They echoed out from the old play area in the corner, long since boarded up and sealed off. No one used it anymore. It was just a dark patch of space next to the dining room, covered in splintered plywood and faded safety signs. I froze, fry basket in midair. My ears strained. Nothing followed. I walked over, trying to act like I wasn't freaked out. Checked the monitors. The hallway was clear. Then the soda fountain hissed to life. Sprite exploded from the nozzle, soaking my shoes and pants. The machine kept going until I yanked the power cord from the wall. Before I could even catch my breath, the front service bell, one I hadn't touched all night, dinged twice. It wasn't a customer. The doors hadn't opened, nobody came in. I stood in the center of the restaurant, holding the unplugged power cord, heart hammering. Something was wrong. That wasn't paranoia. That wasn't anxiety. That was real. I called Greg. He didn't answer. Texted him. Think someone's messing with me here. No reply. I spent the rest of the shift huddled behind the counter, keeping the lights low, one hand wrapped around the mop handle like it might actually protect me. Whatever this was, it wasn't just some guy near the dumpsters, and it wasn't going away. I told myself I'd quit. I even typed out a resignation email. But rent was due in 6 days and my savings were down to $50. So I went back the next night. I brought headphones to stay sane and sage spray from the crystal shop around the corner. It felt dumb, but I was desperate. The first hour passed quietly. I deep cleaned the grill, rearranged the napkins. But then around 2:05 a.m. I heard the unmistakable click of the freezer door unlatching. It was subtle, soft, almost polite, but I knew that sound. I turned. The heavy freezer door was slightly open. Steam curled out like fingers. I hadn't gone in there since my shift started. I didn't go near it, just stared. That's when I grabbed my keys and bolted toward the front. I needed air, needed light, needed out. I yanked open the main door only to slam right into Greg. Jesus, Jazz, he said, stepping back. You look like you saw a ghost. Someone's in there, I gasped. Or something. He frowned. Calm down, let's look. He unlocked the back room, checked the registers. Freezers. Everything was in place. But then we checked the employee bathroom. The mirror was fogged, like someone had been in there breathing hard, and written across it in the condensation, in uneven letters, was one word: stay. Greg stared at it, blinking. Then he wiped it clean with his sleeve. You didn't see that, he muttered. You want your last paycheck, right? I nodded, but I was done. No paycheck was worth whatever this was. I quit the next morning. Didn't finish my shift. Didn't pick up my last paycheck. Greg called once, left a voicemail. Jazz, let's talk about this. Don't make it a thing. I deleted it. For days, I couldn't sleep. Every creak in my apartment felt too loud. I kept expecting to hear that headset static or see Sprite spraying from my kitchen sink. I unplugged everything, checked my doors 3 times a night. Friends said I just cracked under pressure, that it was probably electrical issues. They smiled like they were trying to humor me. I smiled back like I agreed, but I knew what I saw. I knew what I felt. And that bathroom mirror, I'll never forget the way the word stay looked, like it was waiting for me to argue. I started avoiding Elizabeth Street altogether, even took the long route to class just so I wouldn't pass that Burger King. But one night, maybe a month later, I couldn't help it. The tram dropped me 2 blocks away, and I had to walk past. The store was open, lights buzzing, but empty. Not a single customer inside. As I crossed the street, the drive-through menu screen flickered on. Not in full, just the lower half, blinking on and off like a bad connection. Then it pulsed once, slow, like a heartbeat, and went dark again. Nobody else noticed, just me. It's been months, but I still get chills walking past fast food places after dark. Doesn't matter if it's a McDonald's or a random kebab shop. That late-night silence, those flickering lights, I can't handle them anymore. I switched jobs, found a day shift stocking shelves at a bookstore. It's quiet, peaceful, normal. I don't even mind the customers, but I still think about that night. About all of them. The breathing in the headset, the soda fountain, the bathroom mirror, and the figure. I never saw him clearly. Not really. Just movement at the edge of the cameras. Just presence. Always one frame away. Sometimes I wonder what would have happened if I'd stayed, like the mirror said. If I'd walked into that freezer. If I'd waited. I tell myself I was lucky, that I got out just in time. But some nights when I can't sleep and the street outside is too quiet, I swear I hear soft knocks, 3, spaced apart. Sometimes I look toward the mirror in my bathroom just to be sure. It's always clear until it's not. You don't forget the kind of heat that sticks to your bones. That Bakersfield kind. It was one of those July nights where the air feels more like steam, and our Burger King's AC had been busted for days. The fans behind the counter only moved, the grease smell around. I was 22, working doubles every week, trying to cover my wife's prenatal visits. Malia was 7 months along, and I'd take on anything to keep us afloat. Assistant manager wasn't glamorous, but it paid more than the gas station job I had before. It was 2:18 a.m. when I heard the ding of the front door. Nobody ever came in that late unless they were drunk, homeless, or weird. And this guy, he was the third kind, same as every night that week. Orange hoodie, pulled tight over his face. Always at 2:15 like clockwork. Cheeseburger. No onions, he said, gravel in his voice like he'd swallowed sandpaper. No, please, no eye contact. Just stood there, hands dirt-streaked and cracked like he dug ditches for a living. I rang him up without saying much, hoping he'd eat and leave. But as he waited, he stared, right past me, to the laminated employee schedule on the wall. His eyes tracked it like he was memorizing shifts. I felt it in my gut. Something wasn't right. Malia showed up a minute later with my dinner. She always came when she couldn't sleep, just to sit with me for a few minutes. As soon as she walked in, he turned toward her. "Pretty wife," he said softly. Malia smiled awkwardly and walked to the back. I could tell she didn't like his tone either. He took his bag and left without another word, but I knew that wasn't the end of it. After the guy left, I locked the door behind him and did a sweep of the kitchen. I needed something to shake that weird feeling off. Malia sat in the break room picking at her sandwich and talking to the baby. "I swear he's getting more active at night," she laughed. "Just like his dad," I said, trying to sound normal. But something was eating at me. I stepped out back to toss the trash, and that's when I saw it. The door was unlocked. I always check it during closing. I even remember twisting the latch myself just before midnight. But now it hung slightly, ajar, warm wind pushing it in. Inside, something else was wrong. All the kitchen knives, every last one, had been taken from the drawers and laid out perfectly straight across the prep counter. Not touching. Lined up like some creepy art project. Backed up, heart thudding. I hadn't heard anyone come back inside. Then I noticed a piece of paper taped to the walk-in freezer. It was a crayon drawing. A house. Our house, I think. The siding, the mailbox, the porch swing. Malia painted blue. There were stick figures, 2. One tall, one round-bellied, a baby between them. I tore it down, breathing hard, and rushed to the break room. "Malia, we need to leave." "What?" "Danny, what's going on?" Just then, the drive-through monitor flickered to life. Motion detection picked up someone walking through the empty parking lot, not toward the speaker, toward Malia's car. I dropped the picture. The guy was crouched by her door. I grabbed the closest thing I could, a fire extinguisher, and bolted outside. Heart pounding through my chest like it wanted out. Malia ran behind me, trying to understand what was happening. The lot was empty except for her old Toyota. And him. He was crouched low, almost spider-like, tracing the edge of her driver's side door with one finger. He didn't even flinch when I yelled, "Police are coming!" I shouted, "Get away from her car!" He turned slowly. His hood fell back just a bit, and I saw more of his face than I wanted to. His skin was pale like wet paper, stretched too tight, and his eyes, they weren't bloodshot, they were gray like static on a dead TV channel. "I like your uniform, Danny." He knew my name. I didn't wait for what came next. I grabbed Malia's hand, and we ran to my car. I don't remember buckling her in, just peeling out of that parking lot and driving without direction. We didn't stop until we hit a Denny's 15 miles out. We called the cops from there. They went back to the restaurant, said the place was empty. No sign of anyone fitting my description. But they found things. All the booths wiped down until they shined even though I hadn't cleaned yet. The office safe wide open, but not a dollar missing, and a cheeseburger. Perfectly wrapped. Placed dead center on my desk. No receipt, no fingerprint. Just there, waiting. We never went back. The next morning I showed up just long enough to quit. I didn't even collect my last check. The regional manager said corporate labeled it a harmless prank. A break-in maybe. Said I probably left the safe unlocked. He even laughed when I told him about the knives and the drawing. "You sure it wasn't one of your guys messing with you?" "Yeah, that's what they always say." Malia didn't laugh. She started locking every window at night, even though it was pushing 100 degrees inside our apartment. We stopped sleeping through the night. The baby kicked harder. Sometimes I wake up and think I hear the soda machine fizzing. That guy never came back. But the fear did. The quiet kind that creeps into your head when the sun goes down. I asked myself over and over why he was watching our schedule. Why he cared about Malia. Or maybe it wasn't about her. Maybe he just needed someone to see him. Someone to serve him a cheeseburger the way he liked it. No onions. I told myself it was just one of those things that happens and never makes sense. But that didn't stop the dreams, or the nights where I still checked the doors 4 times before going to bed. It's been almost a year now. Malia gave birth to our daughter in September. Healthy, loud, beautiful. But there's something strange about her nighttime cries. She only ever starts screaming when we drive past that Burger King. Malia noticed it first. One night, we took the long way back from the grocery store, and as we passed the old lot on Highway 27, our baby wailed like she was in pain. Nothing calmed her until we turned off the road. The restaurant's still open, still 24 hours according to the flickering red letters on the sign. But the place looks like it's been abandoned. Empty parking lot, dirty windows. A week ago, Malia swore she saw someone inside, an orange hoodie, sitting at the same booth he always chose. She doesn't bring it up anymore. Neither do I, but sometimes I catch her staring at the baby monitor like she's waiting for something to appear. And me? I still dream about that desk, the one in the back office, with the old Burger King paper bag placed neatly in the center. Never opened it, I didn't have to. Some part of me already knew what was inside. You don't think much about fast food jobs until you're the one closing at 3 a.m. with nobody but a flickering neon sign and a half-dead soda machine to keep you company. My name's Lena Carter. I was 16 when I started at the Burger King, just off I-80 in Gary, Indiana. The night shift wasn't exactly a dream gig, but after my dad's truck flipped on black ice 2 counties over, someone had to help pay the bills. Mom took extra hours at the warehouse. I picked up late shifts to keep the lights on. Simple math. Our Burger King was barely hanging on. Cracked tile drive-through speaker that spat static and a heater that had given up sometime during the Bush administration. It was always cold even when it wasn't. My brother Jamal, 13, waited for me in the dining room most nights. We didn't have anyone to watch him, and after what happened to our cousin at that gas station off Ridge Road, I didn't like him being home alone. He'd sit with his hoodie up, headphones on, playing games on his beat-up tablet until my shift ended at 4 a.m. The manager, Keith, didn't care. He never said much to me, just stayed in the back where the office cameras didn't work. His truck was always parked out back, but some nights I swore I didn't see him leave or enter. That night in November, the cold came through the walls like smoke. I had 2 layers on under my uniform and my breath fogged in the walk-in cooler. I was alone out front restocking ketchup packets and wiping down trays when the headset crackled in my ear. "Number 2 meal. No pickles," a voice said, low and slow. I looked at the register. No order was showing. At first, I thought it was just a glitch. That headset was older than me. But the fryer kicked on by itself, just flipped on, hissing and spitting oil, and I hadn't touched anything. "Keith?" I called toward the back. No response, no shuffle of boots, no muttered complaints. The lobby was empty except for Jamal, still zoned out near the corner booth. Outside, the wind was howling. The windows were fogged over, but I could see movement near the dumpsters, just a quick shadow, like someone ducking behind the lid. I set the napkin dispenser down and went to check on the fryer. A full basket of frozen patties was slowly lowering. Into the oil. I hadn't loaded it, my hands were dry. That's when I noticed it, the crown. One of those cardboard Burger King crowns, bent and soggy, wedged in a doorway I didn't know existed. It was near the walk-in freezer behind a mop bucket we usually kept in front of the wall. I'd worked here 6 months. There was no basement, yet the crown held open a narrow door I swore had never been there. A sour draft drifted up, meat, rot, ammonia. I reached for my phone. No signal. I stepped closer, thinking it might be an old storage room. Maybe Keith was back there. But the door didn't feel like it led to a room. It felt like it opened down. Right then, my phone buzzed. A message from Jamal. Why is that guy watching me from the play place? My stomach dropped. We hadn't had a functioning play area since I started. It was sealed up and half boarded over. I turned back to the lobby and I swear something moved behind the plastic wall of the play tunnel. I burst into the lobby, my heart pounding. Jamal was standing now, off the bench, pale, staring toward the shadowed play place structure. "There's someone in there," he said, his voice thin. "No one should be in there," I told him, keeping my voice calm, but my hands were already trembling. We both looked at the play structure. The plastic tunnel, the kind you crawl through as a kid, was dark inside, but you could see the shape of it. And something was inside. I saw the outline shift. A slow crawl. The shape hunched inhumanly long. "Jamal, come with me," I said, stepping toward him. Then all the soda nozzles behind the counter sprayed at once. A blast of sugary mist hissed into the air like a broken pipe. Jamal jumped. I grabbed his arm. We ran toward the back, toward the emergency exit near the walk-in fridge. My fingers fumbled on the metal push bar. Behind us, the freezer slammed shut hard enough to shake the wall. A low ch-ch-ch came from my headset, like someone flipping through frequencies. Then, clear as a whisper in my ear, a voice murmured, "Special sauce." I ripped the headset off and slammed the exit door open. Cold air hit us like a wave. We sprinted into the parking lot, sliding slightly on the icy pavement. We didn't stop until we reached the gas station across the street. The attendant looked at us like we were crazy, but he didn't ask questions. Inside, we called the cops. By the time they showed up, Keith's truck was still there, but he wasn't. No one was. And the basement door? Gone. They said it must have been a prank, a misunderstanding. We were just spooked kids, but we knew better. 2 days later, I went back to pick up my last check. I'd officially quit. My mom didn't argue. After hearing what Jamal and I saw, she decided a little extra debt was worth it if we were both safe. The Burger King was closed. Temporarily, they said. Health inspection, electrical issues, something vague and corporate. But I got curious. I peeked through the drive-through window. The lobby was dark. Chairs still stacked. Trash still in the bins. It looked like they hadn't touched a thing since that night. A week later, word got out. Someone cleaning ceiling tiles found a stash of old wrappers, 37 they said, all stuffed and molded like someone had been hiding them. Not just wrappers, napkins too. All used. In the fridge, Keith's manager shirt folded neat. No wallet, no phone, no Keith. Then came the note, slipped inside a grease-stained employee manual. "We see you when you're sleeping." Cops shrugged. called it likely vandalism or a sick joke. Burger King corporate said they had no record of any basement or after-hours incident. No known threats, no footage, camera malfunction, they claimed. Even stranger, the security feed from that night showed Keith leaving at midnight. But someone kept moving through the kitchen till 3:14 a.m. And I swear that voice, that whisper from the headset, it didn't sound like Keith. It didn't sound human. Now I work at a McDonald's off Route 12. It's bright, clean. Nothing fancy, but I feel safe. My manager's a real person. The freezer stays shut. The headset stays quiet. But some nights when I'm driving home and I pass that old Burger King, I see it. The drive-through sign, still broken, still half lit, suddenly flickers on. Sometimes it flashes "Welcome Lena" like it knows me, even though I'm in a different car. No name tag, no uniform. No reason it should recognize me. Jamal won't even ride past it anymore. He looks away. Says he dreams about that tunnel sometimes. They finally reopened it, under new management, different staff, new paint on the walls. But that smell? Jamal swears he caught it on the wind the last time we got stuck at the light nearby. Like burnt, grease, sour meat, and something older. I try not to think about that night, about the crown or the soda nozzles or the cold voice that knew my name. But every now and then, when I wake up at 3:12 a.m. for no reason, I wonder, what if we hadn't left? What if we'd opened that basement door all the way? And what if whatever's down there is still waiting? They say the night shift will kill you. They don't say how. After my wife Angela passed in that wreck last year, I took every hour I could at the Burger King on Route 66. Bills didn't stop coming just because my heart did. My 12-year-old daughter Jasmine needed shoes and school books and someone to keep the heat on in February. The only job I could get fast was wearing a hairnet and scraping old cheese off laminated booths. That place stank of fry oil and quiet failure. The sign flickered like it had epilepsy, and the hum of the fridge in the back never stopped whining like it missed better days. Jasmine would come with me, sitting in the last booth near the window, nose in her homework, earbuds in. It wasn't ideal, but leaving her home alone wasn't an option anymore. Then came the night Carlos gave me the uniform. "Old one's looking rough," he said, pushing a folded shirt across the counter. $5, barely worn. Saved you the hassle. The tag stitched above the left breast pocket said Lauren. Letters faded but clear. I hesitated. "You sure I can wear this?" He shrugged. "Only if you want tips to stop thinking you rolled." Out of a grease trap. I took it. $5 was a bargain. I changed in the locker room. That was the first time I felt it. Like someone breathing against my spine. Cold and wrong. By midnight, things got strange. The soda machine spat out. Something thick and red. Not ketchup, not cherry cola. Blood red and reeking of copper. Jasmine didn't seem to notice. She just kept humming along to nothing. That night, I didn't sleep. I watched her on the monitor at 3 a.m., spinning, dancing, smiling wide in an empty dining room. No music played. The next night, I wore the uniform again. I told myself I was imagining things. Lack of sleep, stress, maybe just the grief catching up. That lie held until Jasmine sleepwalked into the freezer. I found her barefoot, fingertips blue, tracing Mommy's hair on the frost-covered glass. She didn't respond when I called her. Her eyes were open but blank, pupils blown like she was somewhere else. I carried her out, her little body shivering. Carlos wasn't around, or maybe he was pretending not to be. Back in the locker room, I opened the old metal locker next to mine. No lock, just rust. Inside were folded papers, a pair of worn-out sneakers, a small Bible with the name Lauren Reyes, written inside the cover, a stale half-pack of gum, and a crumpled check stub, Burger King, $132.45, dated June 11th, 2021. Lauren's name printed in faded ink. The same day my wife died. I swallowed hard. My hands shook. On the counter that night, someone left a receipt I hadn't rung up. Kids' meal, 6 PC nuggets, apple slices, chocolate milk, Jasmine's exact order. Always had been. But we hadn't sold a single kid's meal all night. I confronted Carlos. "Where did you get that shirt?" He lit a cigarette inside like he always did when things got tense. "Storage. Old stock. Maybe a return. You really care?" "She's dead," I snapped. "Lauren Reyes. She worked here. This was hers." Carlos didn't flinch. "Everyone dies eventually, man." I burned the receipt in the toaster oven. Jasmine watched it curl into ash. "Daddy," she whispered later, her voice not quite hers. "She likes me." Third night, I didn't wear the uniform. Hung it up in the back and zipped it in a trash bag. I thought that would stop it. It didn't. The drive-through headset crackled around 2:30 a.m. I was alone on the floor. Jasmine was napping in the booth again. A soft voice came through. "Order when you're ready," I said out of habit. Silence. Then static. Then her voice. Angela's voice. "Daddy's special sauce," she purred, just like she used to when teasing me at dinner. "Don't forget the napkins." I ripped the headset off so hard it hit the floor. Shattered. The camera feeds flickered and then showed Jasmine again, dancing in the dining room. This time, someone else danced with her. A woman, long hair, same uniform I wore, twirling. Rushed out front, nobody there. Jasmine sat still, smiling, staring ahead. "She's so nice," she said. "She smells like fries and mommy's perfume." I couldn't speak. My throat locked. The fryers bubbled behind me, though nothing was cooking. The milkshake machine started grinding on its own, spewing thick sludge that looked like tar. I grabbed the damn uniform and tossed it in the trash bin out back, slammed the lid. Carlos was waiting near the dumpster, lighting another cigarette. "You tossed it?" he asked. "She's in my daughter's head," I said. "Whatever the hell you gave me, it's not just a shirt," he just nodded. "Told you it was barely worn. Didn't say it wasn't claimed. I didn't plan on coming back, but something about unfinished business pulls at a man like gravity." Jasmine begged to come. She said she wanted to say goodbye. That scared me more than anything. Inside, the fryer hissed like it knew I'd returned. I walked straight to the back, yanked the uniform out of the trash bag. The air dropped 10 degrees. Every light flickered. I held it over the fryer and said a silent prayer. Not because I'm religious, but because I had nothing else left. The fabric caught instantly. Orange flames leapt higher than they should have. The fire alarm screamed. Jasmine screamed louder. "She likes it here," she cried, her voice rising, shrill and wrong. "She says I can stay." Milkshake sludge poured onto the floor, the register, spit receipts. Every screen went black, except one. The freezer cammed dozens of tiny handprints pressed against the inside of the glass. I grabbed Jasmine and ran. Carlos didn't follow. As we crossed the parking lot, I looked back. The fire crawled through the walls like it was hunting, like it had purpose. Then, boom. Silence. They called it an electrical fire. No signs of accelerant, no signs of forced entry. The fire marshal said the weirdest thing he found was how the freezer glass didn't melt in the uniform. Untouched. Sitting in the ashes like it had never burned. He showed me a picture. Some child-sized handprints on the inside of the freezer. Burger King sent a severance check and a note. "We appreciate your service. There is no record of a Lauren Reyes in our employee database, but I remember her, and so does Jasmine." We moved across town. I took a job at Wendy's. Still wear a name tag, still wipe mustard off booths. Jasmine hums sometimes. That same melody she danced to in the dining room. Sometimes her voice is hers. Sometimes it isn't. Last week she saw a girl at school wearing a Burger King uniform. Same name tag, Lauren. She waved at Jasmine. Jasmine waved back. Grief can haunt us, but denial makes it dangerous. What we try to bury often claws its way back, especially when it's sold for $5 behind a greasy counter. Sometimes the past wants to be remembered, and sometimes it wants more than that. They don't warn you that grief lingers in the smallest things, not just birthdays or anniversaries. It hides in moldy lunchboxes, phone bills, or in my case, shoes. My name's Derek Mitchell. I've been working the graveyard shift at the Burger King off Highway 19 in Tampa, the one with the flickering lights and rain stains on the ceiling. I took the job the month after Sarah died. Cancer. Took her in 7 months flat. Left me with a mortgage, a 10-year-old daughter named Lily, and more silence than I knew what to do with. The money wasn't good, but it kept food in the fridge, barely. I started working doubles, sometimes triples. My feet paid the price. Holes. In both soles, toes soaked every shift. One night during a storm, Rico, our assistant manager, tossed me a pair of black work shoes from the back room. $5, he said, barely used. I should have said no. The insides were stained, reddish-brown, near the toes like someone bled straight into them. But $5 was $5. I slipped them on, and they fit too well. Tight, but like they knew my feet. That night, the milkshake machine kicked on by itself. Loud, grinding like it was choking. It spit out thick black liquid that slithered down the tiles. Rico just laughed. Old machines act up. Then I found Lily in the freezer. Her eyes were wide open. She was humming, "You Are My Sunshine," the lullaby Sarah used to sing. She didn't remember walking there. I told myself it was just a sleepwalking episode. The rain, the stress, the overwork. Told myself anything but the truth. But the next night I saw her. A woman in a Burger King uniform, standing in the rain outside the drive-thru camera. It was Sarah. I watched the screen for 5 full minutes. Sarah, my Sarah, stood just outside the drive-thru lane, soaked from head to toe, staring directly at the camera. Her Burger King visor drooped with water. Her lips moved, but there was no sound. When I ran outside, she was gone. Just puddles. Back, inside, Lily was coloring in the corner booth like nothing happened. She looked up at me and said, "Mommy's working again." I didn't sleep that day. I waited for Rico to leave his smoke break and snuck into the employee locker room. I don't know what I was looking for, but I found it anyway. An old locker at the far end, rusted hinges. Inside, a name tag. Sarah Mitchell. Taped next to it was an old 2018 schedule. She was working the exact same shift I had now. Graveyards, weekends, closing Tuesdays. My stomach twisted like I'd swallowed glass. We'd moved here from Clearwater in 2020. Sarah said she'd worked somewhere dumb back in the day, but never mentioned Burger King. I called her old number. Disconnected. Later that night, I found a receipt on the floor. Kids' meal. Chicken nuggets, apple juice, toy, Pony Lily's favorite order. Always had been, but I hadn't rung that in. The system showed no sales between 1 a.m. and 3 a.m. When I asked Lily where it came from, she pointed to the counter. "Mommy left it for me," she said. I sat in the break room for an hour, shoes still on, hoping they'd start bleeding again. They didn't. But I could feel them tightening. Every shift I wore them, I heard whispers. Somewhere between the hiss of the fryer and the sizzle of oil. "She just wants to finish her shift," they said. And suddenly, I wasn't sure who she was anymore. The rain didn't stop for 3 days. Tampa's summer storms always come heavy. But this was different. The sky looked bruised. The thunder sounded wrong, like a growl. Lily started getting worse. She wouldn't eat her breakfast, unless it came in a Burger King wrapper. She began drawing her mother again and again, but the face was off. The smile too wide, the eyes too hollow. She drew Sarah in a uniform, not the nurse scrubs she used to wear, always with black shoes, always standing in the freezer. That Friday night, I found her sleepwalking again. The freezer door was cracked open, her little hand pressed against the frost, writing words backwards so I could read them on the outside. "Mommy's cold." I pulled her out and wrapped her in an apron. Her lips were blue, her fingers frostbitten. She looked up at me and whispered, "She's waiting." I was done pretending. I confronted Rico. Told him about the shoes, the receipt, the freezer. He didn't even blink. "You think you're the first?" he asked. "That uniform used to belong to a girl named Sarah. Came back after her break and never clocked out. Disappeared. Place barely reported it. Her shoes sat in lost and found until I gave them to you. You knew? He flicked his cigarette onto the wet tile. Man, this place don't care what haunts it, long as the grill stays hot and the register rings. He left me standing in the rain-dripping hallway, alone. That night, I put on Sarah's shoes one last time. Not to wear, to burn. I waited until closing. Lily slept in the booth, hugging her crayon box like a teddy bear. The storm outside raged, wind howling through the back vents. I grabbed the shoes and walked to the fryer. My hands trembled. I whispered, "I'm sorry," to whatever part of Sarah might have been left in there. Then I dropped them in. The oil hissed, then screamed. The fryer exploded in flame. Every alarm in the building went off at once. Fire, smoke, theft. Even the ancient doorbell on the drive-thru, the soda machine, began spraying red. Thick, sticky, like blood. Lily shrieked, not from fear, more like heartbreak. "She just wants to work again," she screamed, voice shrill, not entirely her own. I ran for her, grabbed her in my arms. The kitchen lights blinked out. I saw movement. Through the smoke, Sarah, walking toward us, dripping grease, smiling. I kicked open the emergency exit and ran into the storm. Behind us, flames roared. The whole restaurant was lit like a beacon. The smell of burning oil and burnt memories followed us for blocks. The fire marshal said it was an electrical issue. No accelerants, no foul play, just an overloaded unit. Case closed. But the shoes? Still there, sitting perfectly whole in the ashes, no sign of fire damage. He also mentioned something else. There were footprints, he said. Child-sized, 42 of them, all leading into the freezer. I didn't respond, just took Lily's hand and walked away. Burger King corporate denied everything. No Sarah Mitchell in their system, no incident report. They even docked my last check for damages. Called it equipment negligence. I got a job at the Waffle House across town. Cleaner, safer, mostly. Lily's doing okay now. She doesn't draw as much. She talks less, but she smiles more. But sometimes, just sometimes, when we pass a Burger King commercial on TV, she stops what she's doing, then she starts tying her shoes. Over and over and over, like she's getting ready for her shift. Some jobs never let you clock out. Some grief clings to routines, to name tags, to shoes. In the end, it's not always ghosts that haunt places. It's corporations that forget the people who bled for them. People say it's character building to sweat through your polyester uniform while juggling 10 lunch orders and explaining to a customer why their fries aren't hot. I say it's the third ring of hell with ketchup packets. My name's Ethan Cole. I graduated from NYU with honors and a pile of debt. Now I manage shift schedules and mop up milkshake puke on Madison Avenue. It wasn't supposed to be this way. The Croissant Witch expansion plan was my Hail Mary. I ran the numbers, tracked purchase trends, and launched a pre-9 a.m. marketing campaign that boosted regional breakfast sales by 14% in 6 weeks. The district office loved it. I was promised a bonus, a trophy, recognition. Instead, Nancy took the stage, held my binder like it was hers, and grinned while they handed her the $5,000 check. "That's the food service industry, sweetie," she said later in her air-conditioned office, sipping iced coffee next to a framed photo of her 2020 Mercedes. So yeah, I was a little angry. That night, I deep-cleaned the grease trap alone. It smells like death and melted plastic, and the fumes get into your sinuses and stay there. Something clicked. Some part of me unstuck. Because when I got home, I started Googling fast food sabotage, grease trap revenge, and legal ways to make your boss sick. Eventually, I found a forum, restaurantrevenge.org. Username, grillghost8. Thread title, "Tried this and it worked. You'll never look at mayonnaise the same way." I clicked. I read. I sent a message to a private seller. He replied in minutes. $200. Undetectable. 1 drop. Ships overnight. I didn't even blink before I Venmo'd the payment. I started small, controlled, smart. I work the morning shift Mondays. That means I get first access to the staff fridge. And I knew Tyler, loudmouth from NYU who called me egghead behind my back, always took the leftover chicken patties for his lunch. So I left one for him. Just one. It looked normal. Smelled normal. I had my gloves on. I used exactly 2 drops. By Wednesday, Tyler was out. Violent stomach issues, the message read. 3 full days off. Doctor's note and everything. I kept my face straight when Nancy swung by for her usual unscheduled walkthrough. Said we needed to deep clean, again, and to watch the attitude. She was going to make a surprise visit during Thursday's lunch rush. I knew the routine. Sweep in at 11:58 a.m., eat a freshly made Whopper, then post some passive-aggressive memo on the break room wall. I also knew she hated mayo, asked for it off every time. So when I got the final package, dropper bottle labeled vinegar additive, I adjusted the prep station rules. All special orders go through me. At 11:57, her car pulled in. Silver BMW, perfectly waxed like always. I watched her fix her lipstick in the visor mirror from the front counter. Then I triggered the fire alarm, and, funny thing, I'd rigged the soda machine valves that morning. All 5 of them exploded, with cherry syrup at the same time. Pandemonium. And right in the middle of it all, Nancy bit into her mayo-free Whopper. Except this one had special sauce. There's a moment, maybe 3 seconds long, when someone realizes something's wrong with their food. Their eyes glaze. Chewing slows. Panic sets in. Nancy had that moment mid-bite. Her smile dropped before her mouth did. She stood up, clutching her stomach, tried to shout. Then she staggered backward into the soda counter and crumpled like a dropped bag of fries. The health inspector pulled up 2 minutes later. He wasn't supposed to be there till 4, but I'd sent in an anonymous tip about mold in the ice machine and rodents under the fryers. I even attached photos, old ones, from 6 months ago, but convincing. Between the chaos, the collapsed district manager, and the syrup flood, it didn't take long for them to shut us down. Severe contamination, he wrote. Nancy was carted out pale as pickles, muttering about burning mayonnaise, while paramedics checked her vitals. The cameras had gone out earlier that day. Power surge, no footage of the sandwich assembly. And since I'd technically saved 3 employees by pulling the alarm, hero status, corporate's response, unfortunate, incident, internal review pending. I was told Nancy had opted for early retirement. I was told I'd be promoted to acting manager, effective immediately. Tyler never came back to work, and nobody asked about the mayo bottle I tossed in the grease trap after closing. Now I sit where Nancy used to sit, her Mercedes photos in the dumpster. I replaced it with a post-it that says, "They always forget the quiet ones." My degree still hangs on the wall, smudged from the soda blast but visible. The night crew still jokes about corporate life, but they don't laugh when I talk anymore. One of them, Jade, asked why the patty warmer locks from the outside now. I smiled, told her it's a safety feature. They don't know I keep the dropper bottle in a sealed bag under the floor mat. Don't know I cleaned the vent hood with bleach and vinegar the night after Nancy's fall to cover the smell. Sometimes I catch the new hires looking over their shoulders when I do line checks. Good. You can't build order without fear. This place doesn't need managers. It needs handlers. The AC still doesn't work, but no one dares complain. Not since Nancy. Every day at 3:12 p.m. I take a break. Sit in the corner booth with a soda and a Whopper. One of the kids makes it for me. They always ask if I want mayo. I always say, no. One day, I might say yes. Not for me, for them, because that's the thing no one tells you. Fast food isn't about burgers. It's about balance, hierarchy, ritual. You follow the rules or you become part of the menu. Corporate never called again, never investigated. As long as the drive-thru hits the quota, they don't care who's bleeding in the break room. I still hear Nancy sometimes, when the vent hums just right, or when the mayo pump lets out that wet gasp. "Sweetie," she whispers, That's the food service industry. Damn right. I lean back in her chair, my chair, and I hum the Burger King jingle under my breath, real soft, like a prayer. Workplaces built on exploitation eventually breed monsters who learn how to smile while serving revenge. In the end, it's not the food that poisons people, it's the system. I never liked the dark. Even as a kid, I'd sleep with a nightlight. Still do, actually. But it wasn't the dark itself that scared me. It was what might be in it. That empty space between you and the unknown. That pause before a footstep. That creak you tell yourself is just the house settling. I took the night shift at Burger King to fight that fear. My therapist called it exposure therapy. My dad called it growing up. Whatever it was, it didn't feel brave. It felt stupid. But I needed the money, and my uncle got me the job through his buddy, Mr. Dawson. So 2 nights a week from 10 p.m. to 6 a.m., I wore a paper crown and handed out fries to drunks and teenagers. The place was on West Addison, tucked near an old apartment complex and a closed-down Payless Shoes. It wasn't dangerous, not really, but it wasn't comforting either. Just hollow. Especially at 2 a.m., when the buzz of the fryer was louder than your thoughts. Mr. Dawson swore the security cameras were solid. State of the art, he said. I never questioned it, mostly because I didn't want to know what I'd see if I looked too closely. Usually my nights passed with a couple of Uber drivers and stoned college kids ordering milkshakes. Same faces, same weird smell in the mop closet. Nothing to be afraid of until that night in November. It was bitter cold. Wind slapped the windows, and even the deep fryer seemed tired. The lobby was empty, and I'd just finished restocking the sauces when I glanced at the back door. And that's when everything changed. It was open, not wide, but enough to matter. I stood there, frozen, gripping a packet of honey mustard like it was a weapon. I knew I'd locked that door. I always did. Mr. Dawson had drilled it into me. Lock the back door before 11 every night. No exceptions. But there it was. Ajar. Just an inch. Just enough to make you think maybe it hadn't latched. But I knew it had. I walked to the monitor, above the drive-through window, and clicked through the camera feeds. Kitchen, alley, freezer, dining room. Everything looked normal. Dim, dusty, lifeless. I stared longer than I should have, maybe hoping to see nothing. Then I did. Movement, just a blur at first, in the top corner of the dining room feed. I clicked to zoom in, squinting at the grainy footage, and there he was, tall, hooded, standing, perfectly still next to the soda machine, his head tilted up, right at the camera, right at me. I backed away like the screen could hurt me. My throat tightened. I could hear the clock ticking above the fryer. Just ticking, like everything was paused except me and him. I reached for my phone but realized it was on the counter by the front register. Too far. The front doors were locked, the back was open. I was boxed in, and he was between me and the only way out. I ducked behind the counter, hands shaking. I could barely breathe. My heart pounded so loud I was afraid he might hear it. The silence felt heavy, like he was just standing there listening for me to move. That's when I remembered the staff bathroom. It had a window, small, but maybe enough. I crawled. Not ran, not walked. Crawled. Like a kid hiding under the covers from monsters. Except this one was real. And inside with me. The tile floor was freezing, and every shift of my elbow echoed. I kept my eyes on the dark kitchen ahead. The hallway to the employee bathroom was about 20 feet away, but it felt like a mile. I didn't dare look back at the dining area. I didn't want to see if he was moving. When I finally reached the hallway, I scrambled to my feet and pushed the bathroom. Door open, locking it behind me. The tiny room smelled like bleach and whatever sad soap the dispenser always half spit into your hand. There was a mirror, a toilet, and the window, set high and narrow above the sink. I climbed onto the toilet, shoved the window up, and it squealed like it hadn't been opened in years. My fingers were going numb, but I didn't stop. I pulled myself up, scraping my arms on the sides. It was a tight fit. I'm not a big person, but even for me it was a squeeze. Halfway through, I got stuck. My belt caught on the latch. I had to yank it off entirely and leave it dangling. I didn't. Kare. I kicked out, dropped onto the pavement behind the restaurant, and landed hard on my ankle. It popped. I screamed. Didn't even mean to. It just came out. But adrenaline was a hell of a drug. I hobbled across the street toward the BP gas station, crying, limping, trying not to fall. The clerk, some sleepy guy in a hoodie, stared like I was nuts. I begged him to call 911. He did, I think. I didn't stop crying until the cops came. The police arrived fast. Too fast, honestly. It made me wonder how often they were called to this area. The cruiser lights painted everything in red and blue, like the world couldn't decide between danger and safety. I limped beside one of the officers as he led me back toward the Burger King. Every step made my ankle scream, but I didn't care. I just wanted him to see what I saw. I wanted proof I hadn't imagined it. They checked the back door first, still ajar. No signs of forced entry, but footprints, muddy ones, tracked across the tile and into the dining area. They found a soda cup knocked over, some ketchup packets on the floor. The soda machine light flickered, but that was it. The cameras? Offline, they said. The feed cut out around 2:31 a.m., right after I saw him. Dawson showed up, groggy and annoyed, muttering about kids these days and probably thinking I made the whole thing up. I mean, it was probably just some guy looking to sleep in the warmth, he said. It's cold out there. I didn't answer. I just looked at the camera, the one he had stared into, the one that cut out right after. They didn't find him. They searched the freezer, the bathroom, even the mop closet. Nothing. Like he was never there, but he was. I saw him, and I know he saw me. I quit the next morning, told Dawson I'd figure something else out. He didn't argue. The cops called once to follow up, said they'd patrol the area more often. That was it. Case closed. It's been 5 months. I don't talk about it much, not even to my therapist. She says trauma processes on its own time, which is a polite way of saying give it a few years. I haven't stepped into a fast food joint since. I double lock everything now. Windows, doors, even my car when I'm pumping gas. I don't listen to music when I walk home at night. I need to hear what's around me. I don't want to, but I need to. And sometimes when it's late and I'm alone, I swear I hear it. That soft ding of the Burger King drive-thru. The one that plays when a car pulls up. Only, I'm not near any Burger King. Sometimes I check my phone thinking maybe I left a video playing. I never did. Sometimes I think it's in my head. But the fear? That's real. The kind that hides under your skin. Quiet. Patient. Like he was. The worst part? I still don't know what he wanted. If he was just some drifter or something worse. I've read stories about people who disappear during overnight shifts. Workers gone missing without a trace. Everyone assumes they ran away. I wonder how many of them saw a man like mine, standing in a corner saying nothing, staring at a camera, waiting for someone to look back. I never thought I'd end up working overnight at a Burger King in downtown Toronto. But student loans don't care if you're exhausted or scared. They just keep piling up. It was January, freezing cold, and I was behind on tuition again. I'm studying psychology, ironically. I understand anxiety from a clinical perspective, but understanding it doesn't make it go away. My hands still sweat when I talk to strangers. My stomach still knots walking into a crowded room. So yeah, working alone at night in a fast food joint wasn't my dream job, but the extra pay helped. Barely. My mom's friend Derek Voss managed the place. He vouched for me. It's easy, he said. Quiet at night. Mostly homeless folks looking to warm up or a few drunk kids grabbing a late snack. He shrugged off the safety concerns like I was being dramatic. There's cameras. You'll be fine. At first I was. Most nights were quiet. I'd clean, restock, and maybe serve a handful of customers. I kept my headphones in, just one earbud, and listened to true crime podcasts. Probably a mistake in hindsight. That night, though, everything felt off. Colder than usual. The place was dead silent except for the buzzing lights and the distant hum of the city. Around 1:30 a.m., I just finished wiping down the counters when I heard a metallic clang echo from the alley behind the store. I froze, probably just the wind, or maybe the dumpster lid shifting from the cold. I told myself that, repeated it like a prayer, but then I looked at the back camera feed, and there he was, a man in a hoodie, standing completely still just outside the delivery door, staring directly into the lens, staring straight at me. I backed away from the monitor like the man on the screen could reach through it. I double-checked the back door log. I had locked it. I always did. Derek made a point of yelling about that during training. Delivery door stays locked after midnight. Period. So how was he standing there? And how long had he been watching? I switched to the next feed. Nothing. Then, movement. My stomach dropped. He wasn't outside anymore. He was inside. He stood near the drive-through station, half lit by the glow of the soda machine. He didn't move like someone in a hurry. He wasn't scrambling for money or shouting. He just looked, slow, casual, almost curious. His shoes scuffed softly against the tile. I ducked behind the counter, heart pounding. I didn't know what to do. I'd had zero training for this. Derek said the alarms were only for real emergencies, and that police don't come unless you're bleeding. Great advice, really. I reached into my apron, trying to quietly grab my phone. The fabric rustled loud as thunder in the silence. I hit 911 and dropped the volume to 0. My eyes stayed locked on the tiny gap under the counter. I saw his feet move past, slow, careful steps toward the register. He was between me and every exit. Then I heard it, the register drawer creaking. Open, coins spilled, the cash rustled. I didn't think. I just moved. I crawled toward the narrow hallway that led to the staff bathroom, keeping low and praying he couldn't hear me. Every breath felt like a risk. I didn't stop to think. I didn't even feel scared anymore. Just pure instinct. There was only one way out, and it was barely big enough to fit me. The staff bathroom was the size of a closet, cold tile, broken soap dispenser, and the smallest window I'd ever seen. I locked the door and stood there shaking, listening for footsteps. I could still hear movement, muffled scuffs, and faint clinks. He was still in the front. I looked at the window again. Too small, too high. But it was all I had. I dragged a mop bucket over and climbed up, trying to stay quiet. My hands trembled as I pushed the window open. It squealed, loud and slow, like an old hinge in a horror movie. I cringed, paused, listened. No footsteps yet. I hoisted myself up, scraping my elbows against the frame. My chest barely cleared it. The cold outside hit me like a slap. My coat was inside. Didn't matter. I wiggled, kicked, and finally slipped through. I fell hard onto the frozen pavement behind the building. Pain shot through my ankle as it twisted, under me. I screamed into the cold air and immediately covered my mouth, hoping he hadn't heard. I didn't wait. I limped toward the sidewalk, slipping once on black ice, barely catching myself. A 24-hour convenience store blinked across the street like a beacon. My ankle throbbed, my legs shook, but I made it. I burst through the doors, panting, crying, trying to explain to the stunned cashier what had happened. He didn't even ask questions. Just picked up the phone and dialed the police. While he talked, I collapsed onto the floor, hugging my knees, shivering from the cold and the fear. I didn't feel safe. Not yet. Not even close. I wouldn't feel safe for a long time. The cops arrived, in minutes. 3 officers swept the restaurant while another tried to ask me questions. I couldn't say much. My throat felt closed. My thoughts were jumbled. Eventually, one of them radioed in. No suspect on site. Registers open, no injuries reported, no suspect. They said the back door was still locked. No forced entry, no prints, just a broken drive-through window and an open register drawer. Some bills were gone, not a lot, but enough to prove I wasn't imagining it. Derek showed up about an hour later. He was pissed at me. "You should have called me first," he snapped like I'd interrupted his beauty sleep. "You panicked and made it worse." I tried to explain, but he didn't listen. Said the cameras were too grainy. Said I probably left. The drive-through window unlatched. He filed a half-hearted report and offered to write it off as vandalism. I quit that same day. No job was worth this. Not the cold, not the fear, not the sleepless nights. And definitely not working for someone like Derek. The police followed up once asking if I remembered anything else. I didn't. Just his eyes, sunken, dark, hollow. Like he hadn't slept in years. Like he saw through me. They never caught him, and they never would. Now it's June and I still can't sleep with the lights off. I moved apartments, started working at a bookstore during the day. Safer, quieter. But even now, when the store is empty and I'm alone behind the counter, I find myself checking the back room twice, sometimes 3 times, just to make sure. That man didn't say a word, didn't touch me, didn't even run. But something about the way he moved, the way he watched, it stuck with me. Still does. I have nightmares sometimes. I wake up thinking I hear that same metallic clang from the alley or the ding of the drive-through bell. Once, while walking past a Burger King downtown, I swore I saw someone standing by the window. Same hoodie, same posture. When I blinked, he was gone. Maybe it's PTSD. Maybe my brain is just playing tricks. But that feeling, the one where you know you're being watched, even when no one's around, it never fully leaves. I don't talk about it much. My mom says I overreacted. Derek still manages that location, far as I know. Probably telling new hires not to make a big deal out of things. But I remember every detail. And I know one thing for sure. He wasn't just there for the money. He was looking for something, and I pray every night that it wasn't me.